Good evening and welcome to Hot Topics from the Soul. I'm your host, Dr. Valerie Parker Hagan, and I have my co host with me.
And a gracious good evening that it is. Dr. J.R. Thicklin here. And we're just excited here. We're just about 1 week out from Thanksgiving. And boy, so much have happened since we were on last week, and I'm ready to dive back in it.
Absolutely. We have Dr. Cheryl D. George joining us tonight. Dr. Cheryl, greetings.
Greetings. Good to be back again. Well, thank you for the second time around.
Indeed, there's so much to cover. Dr. J, ask some questions, please.
Yes, Dr. Cheryl, last week was absolutely phenomenal. There was so much enlightenment about not only healthcare, but this whole open enrollment period. And then you shared some things with us about infinite banking and that type thing, which is life insurance. But I had never heard that term, so that was very enlightening for me. Uh, but so many people are still between a rock and a hard place. People are losing jobs, people are being terminated, people are walking away, or they're being downsized. What do you say to a person who may be on the job, but perhaps the job is not really offering much of a benefit as far as health insurance? Should they take advantage of open enrollment, possibly enrolling for the ACA?
Absolutely. That's been written into the law. If you have an employer that offers you uh, health insurance, but the policy is more than 9% of your salary, if it's more than 9% of your salary, then you can go ahead and apply for open coverage through the open enrollment. A lot of people find themselves in that position where their employer would either offer them insurance, but they have to pay extra for their children and their spouse, or the insurance that they offer is so expensive they can't afford it on and take care of themselves. So yes, you do have the option to get it through open enrollment through the marketplace during open enrollment if it's more than 9.05% of your salary.
Okay, so that makes sense in that sense there, that may be an advantage for them to do so. Um, how does it work? I know that we said some things last week about, I guess, there are special events that allows a person to be able to enroll outside of the open enrollment period. Did I get that right? Say a person
Yes,
was.
if you
Mhm,
have if you gotten married, if you gotten divorced, if you
mhm.
had a child, if you foster a child, if you adopted a child, if you was released from prison, if you move from one county to another, you can still be in the same state, but you move from one county to another, then or if you lost a job that had health insurance, then that's called a special enrollment period. Then you have 60 days from the time of
Wow.
your incident to get enrolled. Also, they have what they call short-term um, health insurance policies. They call them short-term because they're 1 day less than a year. Instead of 365 days, it's 364 days. Those are for very, very healthy people. No pre-existing conditions, no meds, because they don't cover those short-term plans do not cover pre-existing conditions. And
Wow.
they are offered to you year round, and you can
Okay.
get it for as short as 1 month all the way up to 11 months. So if you're in between, like you're getting a job and they sometimes make you wait 90 days before you're getting coverage,
Right.
or if you move from one place to another thing for short-term purposes, you can get those coverages. Also, for Christians, there's Christian plans where there's no open enrollment. You can get it anytime. However, you have to have a letter from your pastor, and and they don't cover anything that they say is not biblical. So if you are a smoker and you have lung disease or anything like that, they're not covering it. If you have a child, if you are pregnant and you're not married, they're not covering it. So anything that's not what they call Christian, they're not going to cover it. So there are other options out there.
So when you say that, is that I mean, that a special insurance carrier? This whole Christian policy, or I mean, surely it's not part of the ACA, right? I would imagine
No,
it's
it's in the Affordable Care Act that if you belong to a particular religious group, they have it for the Muslims, they have it for the Indians, and they have it for the Christians. And so there's no open enrollment if you're going to go into one of those plans. There's about 3 or 4 companies that offer those plans. You could get it any time during the year.
now that's
Again,
interesting. You have any idea?
you have to be in pretty good shape, not perfect shape, but pretty good shape. And then it's not going to cover anything that's outside of Scripture.
Wow, that's very interesting. Now, I would just imagine that is almost like a specialized policy. And when things seem to be specialized, they tend to be higher as far as in cost. Does that hold true with this?
It's those policies are cheaper because with the ACA policies, there are mandates by law that they have to have. Every ACA policy has to have ambulatory services. So you can go to the hospital. It has to be able to cover pregnancy. It has to be able to cover mental illness. And there's 10 essential items that they have to cover, and they have to have those in the plan, whether you male or female. So if you're a male getting an ACA policy, you have pregnancy components in your policy, but you'll never be pregnant. You see, but with a
Okay.
short term, it is specified towards your needs, and so it's
Wow.
less expensive.
Dr. Cheryl, mute your phone, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can
Okay.
hear you.
So it's less expensive to get a short term plan or one of the Christian plans.
Now that's interesting. I had never heard of actually a quote unquote Christian plan or religious or faith plan such as that. I've heard of companies such as Medishare and those entities such as that. I don't know if they're one of the providers, but that's interesting to note that an individual could actually apply for one of those plans year round. It doesn't have to be necessary open enrollment period.
Yeah, and they're pretty good plans. They cover a lot of cover a lot of good things.
Interesting.
So that's why you have to have a experienced insurance person working with you, because there's things out there that we don't know. It's not publicized. Nobody's talking about that.
Apparently not. I could only imagine. I could only imagine some
Oh, I can't
churches,
hear
some
you.
major denominations, or whatever, may find some benefit in something like that.
I can't hear you guys.
I was saying I could imagine that would
Can't
be
hear
of
you.
great
Can't hear
benefit
you.
to some major denomination.
Hold on a second. She can't hear, so hopefully she'll be
There
able
you
to
go.
hear in
I
a
couldn't
few
hear you guys.
minutes. Okay.
We lost connection. What were you saying, Dr. J?
I was saying I could only imagine that, some denomination, a major denomination, could really use
He's
that
very
as a
low. I
great
can't hear him.
resource for some of their members.
Say again.
Okay. Can you hear him now?
Let me hear him say something.
Can you
I
hear
was
me?
saying,
Yeah, clearly.
Okay, so I need you to mute your phone since you can hear us, and then you can go ahead and respond.
Okay.
Okay?
I didn't hear you, Dr. J. What are you saying?
I was saying that I do believe that there are certain major denominations that probably could really find that type of information would be of a great resource to them, especially in certain conditions. When you say, for instance, the breadwinner lost his job, or whatever may have happened, or a change of condition. Perhaps this would be a great resource to major denominational leaders. To be able to make that available, at least the information available to their parishioners.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they have special programs if they're enrolling as a church versus if they're enrolling as a member.
Wow. So that's another benefit, very similar to what would you say, one of the great things about, when you work at a job, one of the things that happen, that group benefit, that covers, I'm quite sure that brings the premium down, because the fact you have, X amount of people or a group policy that are coming together. And I can only imagine denominations are doing that, or even perhaps, churches, who have staff members, people that are paid staff. This type of insurance might serve as a
Oh, he
real
went out
good
again.
resource.
He went out again, Dr. Bell.
Okay. Can you hear?
I can hear you.
Okay, so he was saying basically that it would be an advantage for churches and companies that have a lot of employees that get group discounts. So, my question to you is, even though individuals are on a job and they are getting a discount, the discount still isn't great enough. Can they apply for separate insurance, like through the marketplace, if it continues to be in existence for individuals to have affordable health care?
Yes, now they're going to have to choose. They can't have both the work policy and the marketplace policy.
No,
They're
I'm
going to have to.
saying if they can't afford the work policy and the marketplace is cheaper,
Yes,
can they do that?
yes, they can. During open enrollment, they can. Yes. Yes. So the first thing I would do is ask them their salary, and I would do the math to see if it's 9.05% over their salary. And if it is, they can have a marketplace plan with all the tax credits. Now you can get a marketplace plan and pay full price. It doesn't matter, but that's going to be expensive. But
Mm.
if you want to get one with the tax credits, yes. You have to
Yeah,
be.
one of my dear friends called me today and she said that she got notification that her health care is being canceled and she's panicking because the option would be almost full payment without any deductibles.
Oh yeah, so she would definitely qualify. So she would have to apply within 60 days of her termination, because they probably gave her a termination date, and so within 60 days of that date, and then she would get enrolled into a plan. To tell her to
Hmm.
panic not.
Wow, that's some very interesting information there, and I agree that what we don't know is definitely detrimental to us. Um, there are so many things, I guess, when we start talking about different type of life insurance, I mean health insurance plans, and not to mention life insurance plans. So one of the things I would ask you, because I think it's important, is that when people are in these type of position, uh, similar to what Dr. Val mentioned about one of the person that spoke with her, when they are receiving these type of notice, whether or not they're all of a sudden their premium is going to double or quadruple and things like that, what is really the recourse for them, because they're already part of ACA? uh, what is the recourse for them?
Well, the first thing we do is we look to see if there's been any change in their income or the size of their homes, if it's increased or decreased, and if they moved, because different counties, even though you live in the same state, different counties offer different policies. It's not the same. It's not the same statewide. It goes county by county.
Really?
So if
Okay.
you left one county and went to another county, there may be different options. You know.
Now, that's interesting, because you would think that it would be federally regulated or state regulated, but you're saying as much as county by county.
It is. There are state regulated plans and there are federal regulated plans, but each carrier is not nation may not be statewide, or different parts of the state have different. I was just dealing with a client in South Florida. There's hospitals that he has in South Florida that there's not going to be in other parts of Florida, or different healthcare systems as in. So it's by county. And so
Wow.
just
So,
by moving from one county to another, or just because I'm getting a lot of calls from people whose jobs are cutting back their hours. They're not
Right.
allowing them to work full time anymore. They're now going from 40 hours to 35 hours, which makes them less than full time. And so they're able to get subsidy because they have reduced income. The
I
salary is
noticed
going
that a
up.
lot of corporations are doing that. They're not firing people, but they're cutting their hours so that they don't have to pay the insurance for them.
Yes, yes. I talked to two people today that went from 40 hours to 32 hours. So they will be able to get ACA plans because their income is. They already have ACA plans, but they're going to get a bigger tax credit because they've lost 8 hours a week. So there's different things that we will look at when someone gets a letter saying that their premium has gone up.
Hmm.
Interesting. I
Mhm.
do apologize to those that are listening because of the echo that's coming, but those of you that want to connect with Dr. Cheryl, um, for more information, www.insurewithcheryl.com. That's how you can connect with her, insurewithcheryl.com. She's got a wealth of information and she's very knowledgeable in all aspects of, when it comes to insurance and also in annuities.
Yes, I'm just getting ready to plug in my laptop. Hold on.
Yeah, and also, I'm telling you, one of the things that Dr. J and I constantly talk about is that we need to have uh, life insurance.
Yes.
Life insurance is so important. You know, don't be selfish and say, well, my family just have to bury me. That's a lot of stress and a lot of strain.
Mhm.
Get your own policy, even if it's $10,000 to bury yourself. You got to get
Mhm.
some type of policy. And the older you are, the more expensive it will become.
That's right.
So, get it and hold on to it. Don't let it go.
That's right. And also life insurance have living benefits to it. So there's benefits that benefit you. If you get sick, because a lot of us will be sick before we die.
Mm,
And if you get sick, if you come down with a major illness, it's nice to know that you can get a percentage of your death benefit up front to take care of you. So it's not just about the death benefit, which is a great thing to leave that love letter back behind for your family, but you also have something that take care of you. How much better is it for you if you're fighting a major illness and you don't have to worry about how you're going to pay your bills? All because you put a policy in place for your family, but it's now taking care of you.
You know, so we talked last week, and it
And
was it
most
was
people don't
really
know that provision is in a lot of the whole life policies now.
yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Last week, you really shared
I
a
can't hear
lot of
Dr.
things that
J. I
was.
know he's speaking.
okay, what about now?
I hear you.
What about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I heard. What about now? There you go.
Okay. Last week, you shared a lot of enlightening things, even to myself, about insurance, and particularly you when you begin to explain some of the benefits of whole life. And myself being from the old school, the way we looked at whole life was, hey, it's there, but you pay on it, you pay on it. That's what we saw parents do, pay on it. And oftentimes they paid more into it than than what the policy was worth. And now you mentioned such things such as indefinite banking. You mentioned other things like that living benefit that goes there. And I think I would love for you to elaborate a little bit more, because we're living in a day of time that people think that insurance is called GoFundMe. you know, and so I think if you can enlighten us a little bit more on things like that living, or that living, what do you call it, that living benefit that is there, because now we hear so many different names applied to insurance. Where we hear just burial insurance. Well, depends on what age that you are. That's what you thought your life insurance was, just burial insurance. But
Hmm.
now the enlightenment of understanding, no, your life insurance could serve more than just to bury you with, but you're saying there are living benefits to it, and there are things that are happening that many of us don't know. So if you can dive a little bit more inside of that, because I think that's so important. I know I said a lot. I do have a follow-up question, but dive into that one for me.
Well, the whole life insurance has been around for a couple hundred years. That's not
Right.
new. What is new is the living benefits that's been around for about 50, 60 years. And overfunding the life insurance policy is not new. It's new to our community. We didn't know about it, but it's been around for a long time. And so now that's why we have to break in, because in our community they were selling us, like you said, the guy would come by with a little life insurance book, and you would put your little payment in, and you pay for 20, 30 years, and you have a little 10,000, $15,000, and that's it. No, life
Yes.
insurance is the transferring of wealth. It's going from one generation to the next generation. And so the final expense policy, which is the policy that we know about, it's enough to cover the insurance, to cover the burial. It's enough to cover the burial. But then you have the traditional whole life, or the infinite bank, that does more, and most people are not aware of it. But now you can use your life insurance policy like a bank. I just penned a brand new book. It's called Fire Your Bank. You fire your banker, and it's going to be out for Black Friday. And it talks about the comparison between uh, traditional banking versus a life insurance policy. Whereas where with the banks, when you put most people don't know, there's a thing called fractional reserve. When you put your money into the banks by law can take your money and loan it out 10 times the amount. Well, it was 10 times before COVID. Now it's 7 times. So if you put $1,000 in the bank can has by law can loan out $7,000 of your money. They only have to keep 10% in inside the reserve, inside the bank, and they can use your money to make loans for mortgages, for credit cards, for student loans, for car loans, and they make money on your money, and they give you less than 1%, but they're making all the money. The difference between traditional banking and infinite banking is now all the money that's being made is sitting inside of your bank account, inside of your insurance policy, rather, inside of your insurance policy, versus the bank making the money. Now you're making the money. There's the thing that we say: those that know make the interest, and those that don't pay the interest. And
Wow.
interest,
Wow.
and interest is what keeps you in debt. It's not the purchase; it's the interest that you're paying on the purchase that keeps you in debt.
Now, this sounds like, I mean, I'm saying this from a person who considers himself pretty informed, but this sounds like to me, this needs to almost be a master class, a re-education, because the fact of the matter is that you put it very well there. Traditional, this whole traditional whole life versus now this whole, and just like you said, traditional banking versus infinite banking. Man, there's so much to be had, to be learned, and so what do you say to someone who, they're middle aged and they're just discovering this now? And so, we know that insurance, as Dr. Val said, the older you get, the higher that it is. What would you suggest to someone who's middle aged? And because it's going to be high either way it goes, sounds like, what would be your suggestion to them, especially if you're talking about, you know, hey, we're trying to cover ourselves, or better yet, children who saying, look, we need to make sure that mom or dad is all right. We want to take out some insurance on them. What would you suggest?
Yeah, I get that call a lot, because the responsible person in the family, that child that's real close to the parents, they have an aha moment. It's like, sooner or later I'm going to face a situation where one of my parents are going to be gone, and I'm going to be hit with the bill because my siblings are not responsible, or I'm the only child, or whatever. And so I get that call on a weekly basis, and we sit down and we analyze what's the best strategy, so that we can cover mom and dad, cover them, cover the spouse, cover the children. And there's multiple strategies that we can put in play. This podcast is too short to do that, but there's multiple options that we can put in play. Sometimes if the person is not healthy enough, like in my situation where I was not, I could put the policies on my grandchildren and still utilize them. Or I can strategize. I just did a policy on a 68-year-old pastor, he and his wife, and I was able to work it out within their budget. And so they have a pretty nice size policy, because they had $86,000 worth of debt that they wanted to eliminate. And so there was $100,000 worth of equity sitting in their house. We pulled out the $100,000 worth of equity, put it into the infinite banks, created an infinite bank for them, and now we're going to, once that settles in the next couple of weeks, then we're going to pay off that $86,000 worth of debt. So it depends on the scenario. I would say it's never too late. You may not get the $1 million policy, but you'll have a policy. Okay. And that's just a phone call. I don't know if you guys have my phone number, but they have my website. Just schedule an appointment and and we'll have a call either with myself or one of my associates, and we'll walk you through the process.
I know there's constant commercials on Colonial Penn saying, get this policy and this and that, and it's like $8 a day. Is that realistic?
Is in the small print. You have to read the small print, and it says based on a 45-year-old white male,
and it's only for $2,000.
Right. And so that's a final expense. That is a final expense product that they're promoting. It's not going to be more than $10,000.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's all in the.
I just wanted to shout that out.
It's true. Yeah.
And that's the one that guarantee you that, hey, you won't be denied.
Oh, and the other thing with those policies, you have to live 2 years after you get the policy. If you die within the first 2 years, they just refund you your premium. You don't have an insurance policy. You have to live 2 years. I have a client whose father died 22 months into the policy. And so they just give you back your premium.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, all these hidden things, it is just so important, God forbid when we don't have it. Insurance is a security blanket for us.
It is. And for the ones that you're leaving behind, because how tough is it is to grieve and still have to make provisions. You're not thinking clear. The people taking advantage of you because you're grieving, you're not thinking clear, and you added stress.
Right. And GoFundMe is not an insurance policy.
It is not.
So Dr. Cheryl, one of the things that, and this, I think it goes hand in hand in many cases, people don't like to talk about death. They don't like to talk about us leaving here. And so therefore, we don't sit there and we don't put together wills. We don't have a living will.
Trust.
We don't
trust accounts.
Trust. We don't have those things in place. And what would you say for those that are listening now? There are some young people that are listening, pretty, young. What would you say to them? When is the good time? When is the right time for them to start considering these type of things? And even those that may have to look out for their older parents. What is a good time today?
Today. Let's do today. Yeah, because the younger you are, the cheaper it is. Yes. It is so, if you're under 40 years old, it's not expensive to do a whole life policy if you're under 40 years old. If you're under 20 years old, it's ridiculous. You get $1 million policy for under $200. It's not complicated. There's ways to get a will. I have a program for you to get a will. And a power of medical. Let's not forget about medical power of attorney. Last year, exactly. I got a phone call that my mother had 48 hours to live last year. And when we got to the hospital, everything was failing. Her liver was failing, her kidney was failing, her heart was failing, she went blind, she had lost her hearing, her body was shutting down quickly. And we were having to, as a family, decide what we're going to do. Well, we decided to fight. We believed she wanted to fight, and we started fighting. When we decided to fight, as long as we were doing what the hospital wanted us to do, there was no problem. When we decided to fight for her life and give her every opportunity until she took her last breath, it was a big fight with the hospital. They did not want to help her, and so. Only because we had a medical power of attorney were we able to speak on her behalf. That's critical. Right. You got to have medical power of attorney. I didn't know how important it was until I went through that experience last year. Now, thank God we had the medical power of attorney, because guess what? My mother pulled through that and she's living today.
Praise God.
But if it was for the hospital, she would have been gone because it looked like it was impossible. But God.
You know,
So
Doctor.
those
Mhm.
things, well, it look like we lost Dr. Val, but those things are a medical power of attorney, a will, a trust. Is there are programs out here now where you can get a trust for under $1,000. You can get a medical power of attorney and a will. There's a membership that you can join, and you get those two things for free just by being a member of association. So
That's very important, and for
the
those
sooner the better. You'll have more
tuned
peace
in,
of
you can
mind.
see Dr.
Oh, no,
Cheryl's
none of Dr. Valley's not here. I
information.
can't hear you.
Well, I'll keep talking. I think the audience
I
hears me.
can hear you.
Well, Dr. Cheryl can be reached at www.insurewithcheryl.com,
Um,
which is so very important. Now, you made emphasis and you called it medical power of attorney. Is there a specific reason why you call
oh,
it medical power
Dr.
of
J, 1
attorney?
second. Check the chat.
Okay. All righty.
So much for me trying to help with the echo.
Okay. So she was talking about the medical power of attorney. I thought that was
Yeah, I
so
lost
very
Dr.
important.
J. When we lost you, we lost him.
Exactly. So can you hear me
Can you
now?
hear what he's saying to me,
Can you still hear me?
Dr. Val?
Yes,
Can you hear what Dr. J is saying?
yes.
Can you tell me what he's saying?
You can't hear him now?
Nope,
Well, I hadn't said
at all.
nothing about 5 seconds. What about now? Now, this is when you know that this is valuable information, right?
Valuable
Okay.
information, and everything is acting up right now, but that's okay. We're going to do a repeat of the show, and we're going to keep doing it till with this information can get out. It's just, it's just ridiculous. And this is just such a powerful show, and we want people to share it because knowledge is indeed power.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, the old slogan for insurance, life insurance well, I think it applied to all of it. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. And I
That's right.
think that's so important in today's time because, things happen. Things happen. And when things happen, you said it so well, it's hard to maneuver and grieve at the same time. It
That's
just
right.
simply is. So many people, the reason why there's so much, why I believe there's such a need for grief counseling is after the loved one is finally buried and everything, because literally when the family is up under such stress, trying to raise money to bury him, go through all those things there, they really are detached from the process. They're detached from really being able to grieve because they're so burdened with trying to make things happen. And
Yes.
so, it's important to have your information is absolutely incredible. Everyone there, please, you can reach her at insurewithcheryl.com. Let her know that you saw her, you heard her on Hot Topics from the Soul, so she'll know where you came from in terms of that. And this is valuable information. I tell you, we will be making our phone call, and that's my personal endorsement. We will be making our phone call because I've heard some things that are enlightening. There's some things that I think is urgent. What I was saying, and I don't know if Dr. Cheryl could hear me, you made a special emphasis on medical power of attorney. Is that just a specific name, or or does some people just call it power of attorney? I, along with one of my sisters, were the power of attorneys with both my mother and my father, and we did make those medical decisions and those type things with them. But I don't know if we put the emphasis on medical power of attorney.
Yeah, they have different ones. They have power of attorney that covers everything. They have one that covers just medical. They have one that just covers
Gotcha.
finance. They have one cover everything. But yeah, we had a medical power of attorney for my mom last year.
It's important to have, it's a lot of weight, a lot of responsibility there, but to be that voice to advocate. And I love your example because goodness gracious, we all know that, right? There's at least that one child or that one person that we know that's going to be that one that's going to step up, the one who's going to be proactive towards singing. You need them to step up and be that voice, when you're not able to be that voice. So, I have been blessed again tonight. Dr. Val, I'm going to turn over to you with some questions because I'm going to make this a masterclass session with all my questions.
Well, actually, like I said, being that we're having difficulties, Dr. Cheryl can't hear us unless I have the phone ergo the echo. We want you to come back, and Dr. Cheryl, I don't know if you put together a class and we can put it out to our viewers so that they can be able to ask questions to supply for their needs. That echo.
I'm sorry about the echo. Yes, I was looking to do a master class in December right after Thanksgiving. So I'll give you the details on that so you can share with your audience. And we could do a Q&A. They can come on and ask questions and give scenarios so they can have a greater understanding, because it's all about education. It is education is power. Once you understand, then it's up to you to do once you know.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, we thank you all for tuning in and putting up with us tonight. Thank you for sticking with us. And again, thank you for sharing, because we want you to share it and we want you to subscribe to Hot Topics from the Soul. Until next week, make sure you subscribe, tune in. Good night and God bless. And happy Thanksgiving to all.
Happy
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Hot topics from the soul, reaching all minds.